The koala, the bear that isn't a bear, an iconic Australian that all the world recognises, yet knows almost nothing about, an ancient marsupial that has changed little in millions of years. Their entire lives are entwined with just one tree, the eucalyptus. Its toxic leaves are the koala's only food. Renowned for doing nothing, in fact, their private lives are complex. There are old dangers and new pressures as their world changes. This is the story of one koala from his birth through a lifetime of challenges until he becomes the king of a patch of Australian forest. An Australian dawn breaks over a forest of eucalyptus. And its cargo of unique animals that have evolved apart from the rest of the world. One in particular has a life that is tied to the trees it depends upon for everything. The koala is perhaps the most iconic of Australia's native mammals. Known around the world as the fluffy and cuddly toy that children love to love, few know much at all about the koala's private life and its bond with the eucalyptus tree. Koalas are perfectly adapted to an almost exclusive life in the trees. Opposing fingers on their front paws give them grip on slender branches. Long and sharp claws dig into the trunks as they climb. With poor eyesight, they rely upon hearing to detect danger, though for adult koalas, there are few predators to fear in the trees. They occupy an environmental niche without competition, which is probably lucky, as they are renowned for appearing to do nothing all day. And that's because of their diet, eucalyptus leaves. There are over 700 species of eucalypts, but across their entire range, koalas eat less than 50. An individual koala is notoriously choosy, eating perhaps only one or two. Eucalyptus leaves are a specialised diet. They contain scarcely any protein and are also toxic. The koala's sensitive nose sniffs out those that contain fewer toxins, and a koala will sit for hours just chewing on leaves to aid digestion. They are one of the very few animals able to withstand the toxins and extract nutrition. Just as the giant panda eats only bamboo, the koala's sole food is eucalyptus. And even though eucalypts are found across Australia, the koala's range is limited. Koalas live in forests up and down the east coast of Australia, from the tropics to the colder shores that edge the Southern Ocean. They are able to withstand both heat and cold. Those at the northern limits of their range are smaller, with thinner fur, while those at the southern end are larger, with thicker and sometimes darker coats. Koalas live solitary lives, the longest bond being between a mother and her joey, but even that lasts for under 12 months. A typical patch of forest in koala country will have several females and an older male, more dominant than the younger ones. For most of the year, they keep themselves to themselves, but at the start of the southern spring, the eucalypt forests wake to a new sound. Males let the forest know they are on the lookout for a mate and signal to other males to just look out. His bellow has a surprisingly deep register, in fact the deepest for any mammal of his size in the world. Females can tell from the bellows if a male is powerful and will pass on strong genes to her baby. Yet when he approaches her, even though she is willing to mate, she is scared by his size and sometimes tries to escape. She climbs onto higher branches that may not support his weight. Mating appears rough, but in fact she is responsive. Then she returns to her favourite tree to chew on the leaves that nourish her and her baby to come. Koalas are marsupials and do not have a womb. Her embryo develops in her birth canal for only 35 days. Then a tiny jelly bean-sized baby, weighing only 5 grams, will climb unaided into her pouch and will continue to grow outside of her body. Now the mother is no longer attractive to the males. For the first 6 months, the koala's baby is hidden inside her pouch. He latches onto one of her nipples that is now swollen to fill his mouth. He drinks and grows. From birth to adulthood, his body size will increase 25,000 times. It takes almost half a year for the baby koala, known as a joey, to take his first look at the outside world. For most of the time, he remains snug and safe, suckling in his mother's pouch. Even though her pouch opens downwards, she has muscles that seal it, so he cannot fall. Marsupial birth is not exclusive to Australia. They are found in South and Central America, and even one species in North America. But Australasia has become the marsupial stronghold, with over 200 of the world's 330 species. The most recognisable is the kangaroo. But there are many others hardly known to the world outside Australia. Numbats are the only marsupial to feed exclusively on termites. Tasmanian devils eat carrion. And the quoll. She's a fierce predator, but also a tender mother with babies now too old to fit in her pouch. And the wombat, the closest relative to the koala, an ancient marsupial like the koala. They also only have a single offspring and an extraordinarily slow metabolism. Wombats have a wide diet, eating grasses and sedges, roots and bark, and can take up to 14 days to digest a meal. They live in burrows that they fiercely protect. Wombats have been called the digging koala, and the koala a climbing wombat. It was once widely thought that marsupial birth was a primitive form of mammal reproduction. Recent fossil discoveries in China show that marsupials and mammals with a womb are both found at around 190 million years ago. Indeed, it may be that since marsupial birth consumes less energy, they may be better able to withstand global shifts like climate change. The joey must soon make the transition from a diet of milk to eating eucalyptus leaves, a transition that presents him with a major problem. Eucalyptus leaves have a hard outer surface to withstand heat and avoid water loss. This alone would make the leaves unpalatable for almost all leaf eaters. But the eucalypt has one other trick to play on herbivores: toxins. It's a food that the joey must learn to digest. He licks his mother, stimulating her to release a uniquely modified substance of digested eucalypt leaves called fecal pap. This mixture also contains a high concentration of her stomach bacteria. Eaten for almost a month along with milk, this gives him not only the ability to digest the leaves, but also the taste for those specific trees that his mother prefers. Because an exclusive diet of eucalypt leaves is so low in nutrition, koalas spend most of their lives conserving energy. With a metabolic rate half that of any mammal, they sit and chew throughout the day. Front teeth grasp the leaves that are then passed back into the mouth to be shredded into smaller pieces by her molars before being swallowed and digested. The joey gradually transitions from milk to leaves. Inheriting the specific taste of just a very few species of eucalypt leaves from his mum will limit his food selection choices later in his life. For now, Mum is still the centre of his universe. Koalas will stay in the same tree for as long as possible, but eventually she will have to move to another. Throughout a day, an adult koala can eat over half a kilogram of leaves, but she prefers the fresher ones. She can eat faster than the tree can regrow them, and once the best leaves are gone, she must find another tree of her preferred species. A female koala may live for 13 or 14 years, and in her life only give birth to 5 or 6 joeys. By nature, she is antisocial, preferring a solitary life in her own home range that occasionally overlaps with another female. This tree is large and producing enough foliage. The female stays put, content with the closeness of her joey. But eventually, the bond between mother and joey must be broken. He will start to explore the eucalyptus forest that will be his home for life. His first tentative nibbles at eucalypt leaves are from the security of Mum's back. The transition is gradual. He will still suckle when he can. The toxins in eucalypt leaves are similar to cyanide, but koalas can break down the toxic oils because of their very specialised digestive system. It includes an elongated cecum attached to the intestine, similar to the now useless human appendix. By 8 months, the joey is becoming independent. As yet, he has only had contact with his mum. He has never seen another koala. He still stays close to her, never venturing from the security that she gives him. But the specialized diet of eucalypt leaves is a double-edged sword. There may be no competition for this food, but over years, the koala's teeth are worn down by the cellulose. Finally, unable to chew, many die of starvation. Though koalas can withstand the toxins in the leaves, humans would be poisoned by them unless the oils are heavily diluted and specially treated. Occasionally, koalas' paths cross with other inhabitants of the eucalypts. Sugar gliders take the nectar from eucalypt flowers. These tiny marsupials are able to glide between their nesting and feeding trees. A greater glider. These marsupials also eat eucalyptus leaves, but because of their size are no competition to the koala. Like most marsupials, night is when koalas can become more active. It's cooler, and if they move on the ground, there is slightly less chance of danger from predators like the dingo. Because he's with his mum, he's safe from a powerful owl who has already had a successful hunt. Mum chooses her new tree with care. From the scent of the leaves, she knows that the eucalypt is a species that she and her joey can digest. A neighbouring ringtail possum in her nest is of no concern. But as she settles down for another night of chewing, it seems she may not have chosen carefully enough. For the first time in his life, the joey senses a threat. A diamond python. Normally an ambush hunter, the python senses prey, seeks it out, to no avail. Today's generations of koalas face greater threats than pythons. There is a new presence over the horizon. Increasingly, the native forests are becoming fragmented by development. and even the best of mothers can become distracted. She and her Joey have become separated. She's disorientated and lost. There are new dangers. And older ones she is more familiar with. Instinctively, the Joey climbs back into the safety of the trees. With her acute hearing, Mum zeroes in on her Joey's distress calls. But the lace monitor senses easy prey and is also agile in the trees. Used to a life where energy is conserved, the mother is exhausted. The tree is already occupied, so she moves again. But she and her Joey are heading toward a world that millions of years of isolation have not prepared her for. Koalas evolved with no competition, and this has allowed them the luxury of time. Their eucalypt diet is very low energy, so their brain is the smallest of any mammal compared to body size. They are slow to adapt to change. Yet change is coming faster than at any time in their long history. Indigenous Australians hunted them for food, and later, European settlers killed them for the fur trade. But colonisation brought a greater threat. Vast eucalyptus forests have fallen under the onslaught of progress. Koalas have watched on as their world has begun to vanish. The chaos of the native forests has been replaced by an urban jungle of straight lines and right angles. And there are new dangers. Few people realize that domestic dogs are also hunters. And left to their own devices, the pack instinct takes over. If caught on the ground, the koala and her joey would be ripped to pieces. Her only refuge are the trees. Loss of habitat is the greatest threat to all of Australia's native animals. But times are changing. Increasingly, people are starting to be aware of the threat to native wildlife, and concern for their welfare is growing. Our Joey is now over 8 months old. Both he and his mum are survivors. He is growing bolder and moves away from Mum as he starts to explore, knowing that she is there for him, but that too is changing. Again, it is spring, and the forests echo once again to the bellows of males looking to mate. With her joey weaned, she sends out hormonal signals that she is once again receptive. She is almost finished being a mother to him. Once she is mated, the bond between her and her joey is broken forever. He will still try to stay close, but she will have nothing to do with him. Pushed further and further away, he is on his own. But she has taught him well. He knows the eucalypts that he can eat in the forest and can track them down. And he can survive the elements. The only shelter koalas have is their fur. Huddled into a ball, he can only sit out the rain while his thick, woolly fur acts like a raincoat. For most of their range along the Australian east coast, rain is an infrequent event. The leaves of the eucalypts retain water, and koalas get enough moisture from the leaves they eat. For the forest, rain is a necessary relief. Every forest is a complex ecosystem, unique in its own way. There is an entire understory of hidden life. Fungi send out their spores of procreation to the forest floor. Millipedes were one of the earliest of creatures to colonize land over 400 million years ago. they clean up the forest by eating decaying leaves and other dead plant material, helping the leaf litter to decompose and return to its original elements. But no millipedes have the 1,000 legs that their name suggests. Legions of caterpillars are often the most visible, each with its own distinctive markings. These caterpillars of the white-stemmed gum moth, chewing their way through myrtle leaves, are protected by stinging hairs that deter any would-be predator. This caterpillar can grow to over 12 centimetres, one of the largest found in Australia. The caterpillars of another moth feed on eucalyptus leaves. When young, they graze on the leaf's covering, but as they grow, like the koala, they consume the entire leaf, toxins and all. While they do some damage to the trees, many of the insects help to keep the forest alive by transferring pollen and fertilising the trees and shrubs. But koalas give little back to the eucalypts they devour. A tawny frogmouth nests in the fork of a eucalypt tree. The adult tries to camouflage herself, pretending to be a tree branch. And a kookaburra makes her home in an old insect nest. If there is no other food tree available, a hungry koala can strip a tree of its leaves, killing it. Summer winds blow in from the scorching deserts of Australia's red centre, another extreme that koalas must endure. The tall trunks of the trees become a cooler microclimate, and scientists have recently discovered that by hugging the trunks, koalas let their body heat dissipate, staying cooler than the air that surrounds them. Their closest relative, the wombat, has a simpler solution. Burrowing underground not only keeps them cool, but helps them survive another force of Australian nature that too often imposes itself upon the land. Fire. Southeastern Australia is the most fire-prone place on Earth. The climate, the topography, and especially the eucalypt conspire to make this so. Indeed, eucalypts need periodic fire so they can regenerate. A warming climate is now creating more fires more often, and at intensities seldom experienced in the past. Once a wildfire has burnt itself out, it leaves behind a blackened shell of the life that once was. Survivors are confused, but at least some can move. Some koalas have lost everything. Wildfires create havoc. Communities come together to fight them, to help each other, and injured wildlife too. Across the nation, there is a network of volunteer wildlife carers who rescue injured wildlife. Burnt koalas need special care. They are difficult to care for at the best of times, And these are the worst of times. Faces, ears, and especially paws are burnt. An injured animal can often go into shock and die, even though it seems to be recovering. They need round-the-clock care. Specialist wildlife vets donate their time to nurse burnt animals back to health. The eucalypt forests recover on their own. While Australian fires are destructive, for native trees, they are the fires of creation. But it is only in recent times that burnt koalas have had even the slightest hope of survival. These fires were so fierce even burrowing wombats couldn't escape. It can take months of rehab, but finally the carers consider that some of the koalas have recovered. The release site is carefully chosen, as the animals must be returned to those same eucalypts that were their original home. And without so much as a backwards glance, his life resumes. Fire and regeneration marked the passing of time for the Australian eucalypt forests long before any humans were present on the continent. It was this cycle that dominated, rather than the annual rhythm of the seasons. When the first Australians arrived on the continent over 60,000 years ago, they quickly learnt how fire could dominate and alter the landscape. They used fire to maintain the forests. Constant burning reduced dry forest litter, so the fires were never as destructive as those of modern days. Today, Australians are relearning to live with fire as a force of nature. Once there was a harmony between the eucalypt forests and the native animals that lived in them. But increasingly, that harmony is broken. By cutting down some forests and protecting others, people have created pockets where, at first, koalas thrive. But the protected forests become islands, and the koalas in them can become marooned. Koala populations can increase rapidly in the absence of disease and predators. They reach very high densities and then crash. Trees die back and koalas start to starve. Diseases like chlamydia have spread through populations, decimating numbers. Today, even though it is an Australian icon, koala numbers are in decline. But there is hope. Increasingly, developments are planned with native wildlife in mind. Especially the koala. Four years after our Joey was born, his time has come to assert his dominance. But in his patch of forest, there are other males, older and more dominant than him. So rather than risk a fight he may lose, he goes to forests new. This has always been the lot of young males. Not a natural swimmer, creeks full of water after winter rains are a formidable barrier. The urge to breed is powerful. Forest clearings present a clear and present danger, but there is no turning back. Even when faced with creatures that a koala has no knowledge of. The first patch of forest is just a fragment. A few trees perched beside a farm and new houses. Nights bring on new dangers. And surprises. When he reaches maturity, the male koala's scent gland in the middle of his chest produces a strong-smelling oily substance used for marking territory. Finally, he reaches trees that are familiar, with more than just the scent of eucalyptus. Recent research has shown that a younger male koala will shadow from a distance an older male as he moves. The scent trail tells him when it might be time to mount a challenge, something he must do if he is to breed. He marks the trees, placing his scent over that of the dominant male. Now there can be no backing off. Fights between males are vicious. They are strong, with claws that can rip through protective fur and do serious damage. Finally, it is the young male who wins the battle. He announces loudly that this patch of eucalyptus is his. He will establish his own home range of about 130 hectares. All that is left is to find a female whose joey is old enough to be independent, just as he was when his journey toward dominance began. He follows scents that he knows through instinct will lead to a female. She has already heard his deep bellows and found them appealing. The cycle of life has gone full circle. Until he is vanquished by a younger and stronger male, the females in this patch of eucalypt will bear his offspring. His genes will be carried into the future. For a few years, he will be the king of a patch of Australian forest. For the forests are the future for the koala. Without the eucalyptus, the koala simply cannot exist. For millions of years, the koala has survived to live a life that is not shaped by competition from other species. They require little more than space and time, yet in the modern world, they are running out of both. Along their range, much of the eucalypt forests have been destroyed, first by early colonists for farmland, and now by an urban sprawl that seems unstoppable. Yet there is an increasing understanding that native forests must be preserved. Also, a growing knowledge of the specific needs of forests that evolved in a land apart from the rest of the world. With thought and knowledge, there will be a future for the koala, an animal that the world has come to love and is slowly coming to understand.